Today, before we begin our official ceremony, we are honored to be joined by several of this year's St. Louis University Alumni Merit Awardees. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2026 St. Louis University Commencement. Today, in addition to the flags on stage, you will notice that near the stage are also flags representing the countries of today's international graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, the University Mace is carried by Dr. Wynne Moskop. Dr. Moskop came to SLU in 1990 and is a professor of political science who has also taught in American Studies and Women's and Gender Studies. She has received the SLU Women's Commission and St. Louis YWCA Women Leaders Award, the Women's and Gender Studies Founders Award, and the Faculty Senate John A. Slozer Shared Governance Award. Dr. Moskop is followed by the endowed chairs and professors and faculty of the schools and colleges of St. Louis University, who are escorted by the University Marshals. Faculty may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 2026 graduates of St. Louis University. We now welcome members of the St. Louis University Board of Trustees, members of the President's Executive Staff, the deans of the colleges and schools, student, faculty, and staff leaders, our student speaker, the 2026 honorary degree recipients, the provost, and the president of St. Louis University.
Stage party, you may be seated. Look at this place, it's packed. This is wonderful. Good morning. Welcome to our graduates and all of their families and friends who join us here at Chaifetz Arena for St. Louis University's 2026 commencement ceremony. I'm Dr. Michael Lewis, and it's my great privilege to serve as the provost of St. Louis University, and I'm delighted to be with you today on this joyous occasion. We know many of you have come from great distances to be with us, and we are so glad that you are here to be part of this ceremony. On stage are the president, members of the university's Board of Trustees, members of the president's executive staff, representatives of the faculty, staff, and students, the deans of our colleges and schools, and our honored guests. Also here with us today are many of this year's Alumni Merit Awardees who represent a broad array of achievements. Thank you to all of them for the outstanding examples they provide to our graduates. As you are able, may I now ask that everyone please stand for the singing of our national anthem to be performed today by the university singers under the direction of John Garrett, and please remain standing for the invocation which will follow the national anthem.
Stripes and bright stars through the
love the St. Louis Blues too. At all St. Louis University events, it is our tradition to call upon God to watch over and to bless us. I would now like to invite Father David Sawalski of the Society of Jesus, who is the university's Vice President for Mission and Identity, to offer our invocation.
Good morning. Today is the first anniversary of the EF3 tornado that devastated North St. Louis a year ago. So let's keep those who are victimized in mind and once again encourage those who are able to help them. We come together this morning to celebrate our graduates who have suffered the joys of study with the sure and certain hope that what has been uncovered in the classroom and library and deepened by their relationships with faculty and friends has created a foundation for a long and abundant life. We lift up the achievements of our graduates, and we acknowledge that these achievements did not come without stress and challenges. And yet, here they are, and we celebrate what they have accomplished. Let us be grateful to all those who have made this day possible, most especially your families, professors, and friends. And let us give thanks to God, who has placed these wonderful people in your life. Gracious and loving God, we pray you to continue your support of our graduates, strengthen them as they journey to new opportunities in life, encourage them to witness to your steadfast love, and support them as they go forth from St. Louis University. May they be signs of your grace and love for all that you have created. May they be makers of peace and doers of justice, and may they embody the compassion our city, our nation, and our world needs. Fill them with your Holy Spirit and cause your face to shine upon them. May your blessing be upon them this day and always. With gratitude, we offer this prayer, giving thanks for our graduates who have been a blessing to all of us. Amen.
Thank you, Father Sawalski. You may be seated. Now it is time for the singing of St. Louis University's varsity song by our university singers. The song was composed more than 100 years ago and was performed as the university's alma mater at commencement until sometime in the 1960s. During SLU's bicentennial year in 2018, we revived it. You are welcome to join the university singers. The song's lyrics can be found on page 16 of your program.
To our song, proudly our colors fly, brave white and blue. Loud let the chorus swell, St. Louis, you. Great is thy noble heart, tender and true. Show us thy loyalty, St. Louis, you. Bear we with pride and love and blue. Sweet are thy memories, St. Louis, you. All hail St. Louis, you, valiant and strong, noble varsity, hark to our song. Proudly our colors fly, brave white and blue. Loud let the chorus swell, St. Louis, you. Nobility, thy halls enshrine, guarding the hallowed name, forever thine. May we with heart and hand through life renew thy noble victories, hark to our song. Proudly our colors fly, brave white and blue. Loud let the chorus swell, St. Louis, you.
Thank you to our university singers for that wonderful performance. It is now my privilege to introduce the president of St. Louis University, Dr. Edward Fazer, who became the university's 34th president in July of last year. President Fazer grew up in the Pacific Northwest and attended the University of San Francisco, where he earned a Bachelor of Arts in Government. He then pursued graduate studies at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, earning both a master's and a PhD in city and regional planning. Dr. Fazer's career in higher education has included faculty and leadership roles at UNC Chapel Hill, the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, the University of Manchester in the United Kingdom, and most recently, Oregon State University. He has also served in government as the Assistant Secretary for Policy in the North Carolina Department of Commerce. Dr. Fazer teaches in the areas of public policy, economics, and planning. Shaped by his Jesuit education, Dr. Fazer's leadership is defined by his steadfast commitment to the success of every student and the power of universities to transform lives and contribute to flourishing communities. On this, his first May commencement ceremony as president, I hope you'll join me in giving him a very warm welcome, President Fazer.
Good morning, class of 2026. I want to depart just briefly from script because what Provost Lewis didn't tell you is this is his last commencement ceremony as provost at St. Louis University after serving 22 years on the faculty as a dean and in various administrative roles. And on July 1, he'll take the presidency at St. Anselm College. Would you join me in thanking Provost Lewis and wishing him well as he takes this next step in his career? We are thrilled to recognize your accomplishments today. Parents, family members, mentors, and friends, thank you for your sacrifices, encouragement, and love that helped bring these graduates to this moment. Welcome, Mr. James Gunn. Distinguished guests and honorees, greetings, St. Louis University faculty, staff, leaders, and trustees. Thank you for all you've done supporting the education and success of the students we're here to celebrate. For those no longer with us, loved ones from our families and communities who passed away this year, we mark their memory with a chair on stage adorned with flowers. Let us hold them in our hearts, remembering with gratitude the time we had together. Graduates, this is a joyful day. It's a milestone you have long imagined. I guarantee it's a milestone your parents have long imagined. You've finished your final exam, put the cap on your capstone project, tallied your last practicum hours, filed that dissertation. You've completed quite a journey. At a Catholic Jesuit university, we don't just like to mark the end of a journey. We like to pause to notice how that journey has formed us, the people who walked with us, the places that shaped us, the purpose now before us. I invite you to remember the beginning of your journey at St. Louis University. For some of you, it began in your first year as an undergraduate, perhaps sitting right over there at new student convocation. For others, you are embarking on a graduate or professional path with a faculty mentor in a research lab, a clinic, or around a seminar table. However your SLU journey began, what did you expect? What future did you envision? Whatever you pictured, I'm sure you didn't always fully anticipate all the ways you would grow. Maybe it was a course that opened your eyes to a new way of seeing the world. Maybe it was a clinical internship, practicum, performance lab, or project that tested your skill and your confidence. Maybe it was the late night studying, the friendships you never thought you'd make, or the faculty and staff who saw more in you than you saw in yourself. Maybe it was the neighborhoods of St. Louis or Madrid that became part of your education. Or maybe it was one of those quiet moments when you caught a glimpse of God's ever-presence in the ordinary rhythm of your day. Every one of these experiences has helped shape you into the insightful and capable people sitting before me this morning. At SLU, we strive to educate ethical and inspiring doers, people whose knowledge is put to action, whose ambition is joined to service, and whose talents are directed toward human dignity and the common good. We don't write ethical and inspiring doers on your diplomas. I tried, they wouldn't let me. I nevertheless believe that you will seize this title and make your mark, taking action to make this world better. As artists, scientists, business leaders, entrepreneurs, and scholars, as educators, engineers, social workers, physicians, nurses, health professionals, and public servants, as lawyers, advocates, researchers, and aviators. Communities and organizations do not flourish by accident. They flourish when people commit themselves to one another's success, privilege the team over the individual, think boldly and creatively, take smart risks, weather setbacks together, and persist in turning hope into reality. In other words, the people in this world who make good things happen are a lot like you. The challenges your generation faces are real. You are embarking on the next phase of your life in a time of great technological and economic change, civic uncertainty, and moral complexity. Yet make no mistake, you are inheriting a world of enormous possibility and promise. I believe your SLU education, steeped in Catholic spirituality and the Jesuit tradition, will be an ever-renewing resource in these challenging but exciting times. The habits you have practiced here, a bedrock focus on human dignity, rigorous inquiry, careful reflection, wise and ethical judgment, and courageous action will serve you well. As you begin this next phase of your life, know that you will always be a cherished member of this community. The teachers, mentors, staff, and coaches who have supported you are forever invested in your future. The friends you have found here will walk alongside you through life's most joyful and difficult moments. This community will always embrace you. You are Billikens forever. We are so proud of you. Congratulations, class of 2026. May God bless you and keep you always.
Thank you, Dr. Fazer. I am pleased that we are joined today by members of our distinguished faculty representing all of St. Louis University's colleges and schools. They have seen our graduates through years of classes, papers, labs, projects, and final exams, so it is most fitting that they are here today to celebrate one final success with their students. The formative partnership between faculty and students lies at the heart of the academic enterprise. All faculty are by turns transmitters of knowledge, purveyors of culture, initiators of professional training, mentors, role models, confidants, and in some cases, research colleagues to our students. The faculty revel in learning, both their students' learning and their own. And they are committed to intellectual and personal development in recognition of the many key roles that our faculty play in helping SLU graduates to develop both educationally and as whole persons capable of making a difference in the world. I now ask all university faculty in attendance to stand and receive the thanks of those assembled here today. Thank you. Now it is my pleasure to introduce a speaker from our graduating class. Ria Arajula is graduating from our College of Arts and Sciences. A St. Louis native, Ria majored in neuroscience and is a presidential scholar and a Spirit of the Billiken Award recipient. She has been a member of our Oriflamme and of the SLU 101 first-year experience team. Ria is also a Kappa Delta sorority member, a TEDx SLU speaker, and a leader among SLU's South Asian women on campus. She was also president of SLU's Taekwondo Club, teaches self-defense to high school girls, and is a volunteer at a wide variety of service organizations around the St. Louis area. This is very impressive. This makes me tired, Ria. After graduation, Ria is pursuing a career in medicine. Please join me in welcoming our 2026 student speaker, Ria Arajula.
I know, I'm seeing myself on the big screen, I'm like, wow. Okay. Good morning, fellow students, family, friends, faculty, and of course, an extra special good morning to the St. Louis University graduating class of 2026. I know many of you may be doing a double take seeing me up here because I somehow pulled off the feat of keeping this a complete secret from my family and most of my friends. I think cap might have to come off. Okay, cap was not made for my head shape, by the way, so we're just gonna keep going. So I kept it a secret, and there were two reasons for that. The first, and I say this with love, is my dad. Dad, I know you're out there somewhere, and I also know that if I told you I was speaking today, you would have shown up, found a cozy little stadium seat, and been fully asleep before I got to the microphone. This was the only way to keep you awake, so surprise! The second reason is a little bit more strategic. I needed to get close enough to James Gunn, okay, to pitch him something. So, Mr. Gunn, the universe has been speaking to me, and I have this concept for a movie. It's called Guardians of the Billiken. So, yeah. I have a script written up, a few different title ideas, a few casting suggestions, and what I think is a really reasonable budget ask. Okay? I'll have my people talk to your people later. But until then, I guess I'll get back to commencement speaking. It is my honor and Billiken privilege to be up here celebrating us. SLU class of 2026, we did it. I do also want to take a moment to thank all the amazing people in this room and beyond who got us to this point, because we wouldn't be here without the sacrifices, love, and support of the people in our circle. Thank you for continuing to challenge us, nurture us, and believe in us. Now, if you were to ask little Ria, she would have never expected to be up here speaking to you all at our SLU commencement. Not only did she dream of being a Kraft mac and cheese chef, but she was also slightly scared of the Billiken because it reminded her of a gargoyle-y Cabbage Patch Kid. However, standing here now, I can say without a doubt that there is nowhere and with no other group of people I would rather be graduating with than the SLU class of 2026. From my fellow undergraduates to graduate students to the doctors and lawyers among us, we are one pretty phenomenal group of human beings. We are in a room of A10 champions, chess President's Cup winners, advocates for social justice, researchers paving the way in medicine, technology, and sustainability, to name a few. Servant leaders who have poured their hearts into St. Louis. SLU has become the place I'd never known I needed, and that's because of all of you. When I think about these past 4 years and what has made me so proud to be a Billiken, I find that it all stems from how our mission runs through the veins of everything we are and everything we create. I wanted to take some time today to share the biggest things our SLU mission has helped me realize, in hopes that they relate to each of you in some way or another. As you heard from Provost Lewis in my little intro, I served as a SLU orientation leader, which means I've gotten lots of future Billiken questions thrown at me. One fan favorite is, what makes SLU special? My immediate response is obviously, B-School Chipotle Ranch. But if SLU's perfectly seasoned, creamy, dreamy sauce isn't enough to drive home what makes us special, I always say, our community. It isn't every college campus where you have to build in 10 extra minutes to your walk to class because of how many times you will stop to chat with someone. My time at SLU isn't just defined by my grades or my resume or achievements, but by the people in this room. It is the people who I got color blasted with during Paint SLU, or wiped my tears after a tough exam, or squished next to me at Humphreys as we cheered on the men's basketball team. This community, this family, is what makes me proud to be a Billiken. Second, I've learned about learning. And I know some of you are looking at me like, girl, duh, it's college. But I'm not talking about Punnett squares or using commas correctly, or even those life skills we had to learn, like if you put a hard-boiled egg in the microwave for too long, it will explode. 32 seconds is the magic number if anyone asks. I'm talking about what learning is really about. It's about being comfortable in discomfort, facing our fears head on, being okay not knowing something and admitting it. Without this lesson, I wouldn't have been a woman pursuing a career in medicine, even though I didn't get straight A's. I wouldn't be a self-defense instructor flipping people double my height. I wouldn't be an advocate for the voices of immigrant communities or a South Asian unafraid of speaking about mental health. Falling down and obstacles are part of life, but true learning allows us to use these hurdles as catalysts for growth, a lesson that has gotten me through college and will get us through life. Lastly, at SLU, I've learned to wholeheartedly pursue truth, which really means pursuing your truth, a destiny meant just for you. Coming here, I thought I knew what the world expected of me, and that determined my next steps. But SLU has surrounded me with passionate people who are ignited because they firmly believe in the work they are doing and find joy in it. At SLU, we aren't asked to blindly go down a path, but to stop and discern, to reflect on our purpose, our why. And at the same time, SLU, and so many of you, have taught me that community grounds our purpose. And in a world that is constantly trying to find ways to divide and disconnect, we know that we are nothing without one another. We have been and will continue to be those who live for and with others. It's ingrained into our Billiken hearts. And as we leap into this new journey, I want you to firmly believe in the gifts you are going to give this world. Some of you may know exactly what these gifts look like already, or at least think you do. And others of you may feel completely in the dark. I'm here to remind you that you don't need to have it all figured out today or tomorrow or a year from now. But I do ask that if you have a spark, you know, that slight inkling towards an idea or goal, go for it. Be the architect of the future you want for yourself. Start writing the next chapter of the autobiography you want to read, and never doubt the fact that you are meant to do extraordinary things. One more time, congrats, SLU class of 2026. Roll Bills!
Thank you, Ria. I'm always amazed listening to our students. We are in very good hands. It is now my honor to introduce SLU's 2026 commencement speaker, filmmaker James Gunn. Yeah. I joked with some colleagues that I would do this entire introduction as Groot. I won't. Filmmaker James Gunn began his career at age 12 with an 8mm camera in hand, chasing his brothers around the woods making zombie movies. Now widely recognized as a visionary writer, director, and producer, he is best known for his work on films including 2025's Superman and the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. I'm not the only Groot fan. As well as the Emmy-nominated television series Peacemaker, which he created for HBO Max. As co-chairman and chief executive officer of DC Studios, Mr. Gunn is shaping the future of one of the world's most iconic storytelling franchises, guiding a new era of films and television projects centered on DC's legendary characters. Throughout his career, Mr. Gunn has built a reputation for bringing unconventional outsider characters to the forefront, often transforming lesser-known comic book figures into globally recognized icons while exploring themes of belonging and redemption. Mr. Gunn credits his time at St. Louis University High School and St. Louis University as foundational to his creative development. Like many of you, he has found passion for storytelling as a student. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to St. Louis University alumnus and your 2026 commencement speaker, Mr. James Gunn.
All right. What up? So, boy, this is cool. I am the only jerk on stage not wearing a hat. They gave me the choice, and I said no, and then I didn't realize everybody else. So, thank you, Provost Lewis, President Fazer, all the faculty, the parents. You guys must be proud. And especially thank you to the St. Louis University class of 2026. Hell yeah, you made it. St. Louis University has an important place in my heart. I graduated from here, as did my father, as did my grandfather. I'm actually a little sad my own son can't come here, but it's for a lot of reasons, mostly because he's a dog. He's going to Mizzou. What? He's into journalism. Thought it was a better school. I made lifelong friends at SLU. I first fell in love with SLU right in front of Ritter Hall. I saw her for the first time smoking. Smoking was really cool back then. I found my voice at SLU, my calling, storytelling, the birth of everything I've done from Guardians of the Galaxy through Superman through DC Studios was here, really. My college journey was circuitous. I was mostly singing in rock bands, making half a living at touring and playing in bars. I had long, bright orange hair and wore makeup and torn up clothes. I was almost as cool as smoking. But I wasn't happy, not really. My rock star dreams weren't progressing quickly enough, in part at least for the minor reason that I wasn't that great of a singer. So on a lark, I took a creative writing class at St. Louis U. My teacher was an old gay guy who looked like a tanned and angry leprechaun by the name of Al Montesi. Some of you may remember Al. He gave us the assignment to write a one-act play. I went home and got on my really great, nifty IBM PS2 computer and started writing. And I don't even want to tell you what the play was about. I've never talked about this publicly, but it was called Gray Rose of Chicago. And it was about a guy who lived in Chicago. And his name was Phil Rose. And he was gray, I guess, because he was, I don't know, neither happy or sad or something. And to be extra pretentious, I spelled the gray with an E. I don't remember it well. I just remember Phil had a lot of lovers. It was amateurish and stupid, I'm sure. But as I was writing it, I realized I could hear people's distinct voices. And if I let my mind wander, almost as if I was a journalist to my own imagination, not just making something up. I laughed at things they said. I was moved emotionally by their dilemmas. I worked on the play through the night. I couldn't stop. I was on fire. And by the morning, I had fallen in love twice at SLU. The first time with a woman, the second time with writing. I brought my play into class the next day. Al Montesi asked for volunteers to have their plays read out loud by our classmates, and one other guy and I volunteered, the other guy who was a very gray with an A type of dude. His play was probably 4 minutes long, but it felt like 4 hours, both because I was really nervous about having my own play read and also because it sucked. But eventually, they started reading my play. My classmates were reading all the different parts out loud, and I killed. My classmates couldn't stop laughing, and at the end, they applauded. After years of playing music and not being appreciated in the way I wanted, I felt like I let people into my mind in a deeper way, and they liked being there, and they liked me. Now, I'm sure you can psychoanalyze me, my need to feel loved from my work, because I have a difficulty experiencing love in my real life, and that's true. But it's also true I found something I was good at, truly good at. And because of that, it was quite possibly the second happiest moment of my life. What was the happiest? Well, we're going to get to that. Anyway, after my classmates read my play, Al Montesi walked up to the front of the play, to the class, and said it was garbage. He said it was amateurish and oversexed. And he was probably right, but I didn't care because they loved it. And I've been sort of a populist ever since. You know what Gray Rose of Chicago is missing, I thought? Robots. Maybe a talking raccoon. So yeah, it all started here. Writing got me into graduate school at Columbia University, which led to me writing a novel, which led to me writing for films, which led to me directing for films, small ones, then big ones, then really big ones, which led to me heading a studio. All, of course, peppered with some small and some gargantuan controversies along the way. And now I'm here with you. I'm not here for me, though. I'm not here for the faculty or for the parents, as much as I love you all. I want to be of service to you guys, the class of 2026, as you begin your journey as actual, real frickin' adults. A commencement speech is a celebration of new beginnings and an opportunity to partake in 2 or 3 sage insights from a wise elder. So it only makes sense they'd get the guy who wrote a 3-minute farting joke contest in Scooby-Doo. That's right. That's what got the applause. The farting's what got the applause. Thank you. I'll do what I can, guys. All right, but first I'd like to say to each of you, you understand the world now in many ways better than I do. The words out of my mouth mean nothing compared to what your hearts say, what your reason says. The world is different than when I graduated, and the steps I took to thrive may not be the exact same for you. But with that in mind, I do believe there are some constants. So I've come up with 4 general all-purpose rules for success. Most of this is intended to help you be successful in any task you set out to do, and some of it, a little bit of it, is for you to be more joyful. Number 1 rule, finish what you start. This sounds mundane and obvious, but you can never be successful if you don't finish whatever task you set out to do. We all try to sabotage ourselves, and we all want to stop when things get hard. As a writer and a filmmaker, I have to sit through hours and hours of me telling myself, I suck, or the work sucks. But I've learned over the years that my judgments, my thoughts, my feelings have very little to do with the quality of the work and are simply uncomfortable mental states I must wade through while taking the steps to achieve my goal. The biggest difference between a professional and an amateur writer is professionals write. They finish their projects. But this is not about being a writer or a creator. It is about anything we commit to. All of us allow doubt to dictate our actions. But our actions should be dictated solely by our commitments, our ideals, our callings. Like most rules, there are exceptions. But in general, once we've committed to a path, our feelings and our thoughts don't matter. Many of you are anxious, I'm sure, as you step out into the world. This anxiety is not an exterior reality. It's a normal internal state and something most people feel at this time in their lives. So don't let that anxiety dictate your next step. Most people do. Instead, let your logic, your faith, your hope, your love, and your passion guide those choices. Which leads me to my second general rule of advice: don't follow your dreams. But James, you might say, you just said let your faith and passion dictate your choices. That seems contradictory. I think you might be an idiot. And I'd be like, dude, it's my day off. I don't have to be here. Don't be so calling me an idiot. Let me explain. Finishing what you start has to do with being true to a commitment you've made, hopefully based on reason and love as much as passion. The other has to do with following something that isn't real. I love my job. I love it. I love telling stories and falling in love with my characters and sharing them with audiences all over the world. But going back to the beginning of this speech, this is my backup plan. That was not my dream. I wanted to be a rock star. I was a singer in a band, but I wasn't good. I was okay. Because although I loved writing music, which I still do, I didn't have the natural ability to be an extraordinary singer. So it didn't feel that great while I was up on stage doing it. I couldn't do it with my soul like Otis Redding or Al Green or Johnny Rotten. I liked the idea of it. I liked the dream of it. I would have gotten better, sure, but I never would have been great, just like I never could have played basketball for the Lakers no matter how many hours a day I practiced. Maybe the Wizards. You know, work my butt off, sit on the bench for the Wizards. I'll give you another example. My whole life, my dream was to be famous. As a kid, I imagined being on David Letterman or winning a Grammy or having my picture taken on the red carpet at a movie premiere. And you want to know what I hate the most out of everything I have to do with this job? Posing on the freaking red carpet. It's awful. Almost everyone I know despises it. It's so awkward. Even if you're the biggest star, the biggest director in the world, standing there in a line, waiting to have your picture taken like you're at the DMV, these photographers, they do this every night. They are not enamored by your stardom. They're bored. And they're more often than not so incredibly rude, and they're yelling at your wife to get away like she's not a human being so they can get a picture of you by yourself, or away from her so they can get a picture of her purse. And then you have to do an assembly line of interviews, and it's hotter than hell, and you're sweating through this makeup you have to wear because otherwise the lights make you look like Nosferatu because you're the only person in Hollywood without veneers. And they're asking you over and over and over again who you're going to cast as Batman. That last thing may just be me. But the rest of it is pretty much how we all feel. But that was my dream. But you see a dream from the outside, not the inside. So you don't even know if you really like it until you're in it. Instead of following your dreams, find what you're good at doing and what contributes to society. There is a state of flow that results from truly acknowledging our talents and being of service to others. I'm not saying take the easy way out. And I'm not saying you won't like your dreams if you follow them. I'm just saying don't make that the reason you're doing something. Don't chase something. Be it. Challenge yourself. Learn. Get better. Find goals that are difficult to achieve. but truly examine and be honest with yourself about what your skills are, about how you can be of use to your fellow human beings so that you're setting yourself up for the best possible outcome. Which leads perfectly to my next general rule, which is be of service. We live in a world where many people are driven by their baser natures, where greed and corruption and fear and self-survival dictate their actions. There is only one thing you can do about this, and that is not be one of those people. I have both sides of those things in myself. I can listen to the part of me that is incredibly competitive and fearful of failing, so thereby willing to do anything to succeed, or I can listen to the better angels of my nature and do what I do in service of others and in service of what I believe is my higher power, my God. Yes, it's actually a Hollywood guy mentioning God. And faith is personally a big part of it in my life, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about caring about others in a world filled with voices, telling you kindness makes you less than. I'm talking about stepping out of the prison of self-involvement so we can breathe in the full essence, the most wonderful parts of being alive and being in connectivity with others. I'm talking about purpose. I can tell you from experience, my life is so much richer when I listen to the more generous side of myself. And I'm usually more successful in exterior ways as well. And I know I'm not a scientist curing cancer. I'm not a politician changing the system for the better. I'm not my Aunt Ginger, who is a sister of St. Joseph, who tends to the poor and in need. All those people would have probably been more worthy of being your commencement speaker than me. They probably wouldn't have been as funny. My Aunt Ginger, she's funny, but she's not hilarious. I'm a guy who tells stories. I make movies, but I hope that when someone goes with a loved one to see one of my films in the theater, that they love that person a little more when walking out than they did when they were walking in. I'm committed that everyone involved in making my films, my crew, my casts, have richer lives because of the process of making them. That's my family. So when I say making movies is my calling, when I say I feel God's voice calling me to do what I do, it's not because I'm great or important or I'm Charlton Heston on Mount Sinai with the Ten Commandments. It's because I'm listening. Because telling stories is my own little corner. And when I'm there, truly there, with people I love and trust around me, there is no better feeling. The first time I was on a movie set, a Z-grade exploitation film called Romeo and Juliet, which had exploding heads and a woman giving birth to rats, just like Shakespeare originally intended. That was the third happiest moment of my life. Because I knew that despite the ludicrous surroundings, I had found my corner. Again, it's not the first happiest, that's still coming. So ask yourself, what's your corner? Is it politics or law or medicine or working in a pinball machine factory? Maybe it's being a mom or a dad or rescuing animals. I believe every one of us has a purpose. I deeply believe it. I do everything I can to express that through my stupid movies with robots and flying animals. I spent 10 years of my life telling a story about a raccoon coming to realize not only he mattered, but so do every single one of us. And to tell that story, I really had to pass through the ring of fire, which leads to my final of 4 rules. Know that obstacles are opportunities. Human beings are funny things. We set out to do something and some hurdle appears before us and we're like, oh my God, I can't believe this thing is happening that's making my life difficult. What a surprise. As if that doesn't happen every single time we do something. We're these eternally surprised idiots. I mean, it's sort of beautiful, our own innocence in a way. But when we accept that adversity is the nature of life itself and a component of nearly any action we take, it makes things easier. And if we can see this adversity, these obstacles, as opportunities to find a more creative path or to learn about ourselves, then life will truly open up for us in ways we've never imagined. In 2018, I was fired from directing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 for making offensive jokes on Twitter 11 years earlier. I was heartbroken. I was humiliated. People were sending me videos of disapproving-looking newscasters in Japan, and the only thing I could understand was Jamizu Gan and the picture of the Twitter bird behind them. Meanwhile, mostly I was terrified because I felt like I was losing everything that made me worthwhile. I don't know exactly what childhood traumas led me to experiencing life the way I did, but I, as a human being, was truly incapable of feeling the love of others. So what did I do with my life? I spent it trying to be rich and famous, not because those things mattered, but because I wanted people to love me. If I made good enough movies, maybe the world would love me and I would be okay. But the more I did those things, the less I felt them. So when I lost my job and I truly thought it was the end of my career forever, I felt completely useless. But then something miraculous happened. My girlfriend at the time, Jen, stood by me and loved me and defended me, even though it seemed I'd never make another dollar. My mother and father, my brothers, my brother Matt over there, my sister, my friends, hundreds of people I had worked with over the years, my Guardians of the Galaxy cast members, they told me how much they loved me, how much they cared about me. Many of them put their butts on the line publicly to defend me. And in the moment where I thought I had lost everything, I actually found what it was I was looking for. I felt loved for the first time really ever. And that was the happiest moment of my life. Obstacles are opportunities. After that moment, I was never the same. I remember that night looking over at Jen and knowing I was going to ask her to marry me, and I did, and it was awesome. I enjoyed making films more than I ever had because it was born not out of the desperation to be accepted, but instead out of the pure joy of creativity, just like in Al Montese's class here at SLU. And I eventually took a job making a movie for DC that I wouldn't have been able to take otherwise, which led to my current position as the co-head of DC Studios. Look at the world with the knowledge that the worst thing that ever happens to you just might be the best. You all have times ahead of you that will seem wonderful, and times that will feel horrible, that you don't think you can make it through. But who you are, your character, is not defined by the things that happen to you, but how you react to them. So St. Louis University graduates, class of 26, embrace your future. Embrace everything you don't know. Embrace your youth. I would trade anything to have your youth again. I mean, oh boy. I mean, maybe not my house in Aspen, but a lot of other stuff. Maybe not my dog, because that's kind of a weird thing for God or a wizard or whoever is asking for this stuff to ask me to give up, and I don't think Mizzou could do without the tuition money. But a lot of other stuff I'd trade. Embrace being scared. Allow it to keep you on your toes. Embrace the hard times. They make the easy times so much sweeter. Embrace your family. If you're like me, you'll love them more and more as you get older. The future is yours, and the world's future is you, in all senses of the world, in all senses of the word. Be good. Thank you so much for bestowing me with this honor. My sincerest love to all of you. You don't need luck, but follow your hearts. I love you all. God bless.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, James. From our graduate in RIA to an amazing alum, you see the formational power of the education we offer here at St. Louis University, and we're so grateful for your time and so proud of you, Mr. Gunn and RIA. It is now my privilege to present Mr. Eric Engler, the chairman of St. Louis University's Board of Trustees.
President Fazer, I have the honor to inform you that the Board of Trustees, by virtue of the right granted to it by the state of Missouri, has voted to authorize you to confer upon these persons honorary degrees in recognition of their singular achievements. First, Mr. J. Joseph Adorjan, then the Honorable Henry Autry, then Mr. James Gunn, and finally, Sister Mary Haddad of the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas. So now, to honor Mr. Adorjan, I invite University Trustee Martha Yulhorn forward. Martha?
Good morning. At 14 years old, J. Joseph Adorjan started working at a bakery. In high school, he helped in the cafeteria to earn lunch tokens. He joined the Naval Reserve at age 17, and after high school graduation and active duty in the service, he worked for Century Electric to save money for college, eventually earning both his bachelor's and master's degree from St. Louis University. His career began in earnest at Emerson Electric Company, where as president, he led the successful integration of the Fisher Controls Company into Emerson. Mr. Adorjan also served as chairman and chief executive officer of ESCO, Electronics Corporation, after its formation as an independent, publicly traded company. After Emerson, he was chairman and chief executive officer of Borg Warner Security Corporation, and today, he's chairman of Advent Capital, a private equity firm. In addition to corporate leadership, Mr. Adorjan has been deeply engaged in civic and educational initiatives. He is a SLU trustee emeritus, having served as a member and chairman of the Board of Trustees for more than 25 years. In 2005, he was appointed Honorary Consul General of Hungary, and in 2027, he formed a nonprofit scholarship program, the Hungarian-Missouri Educational Partnership, among many efforts. For his considerable contributions to business, education, and the community, and for his sustained commitment to leadership and service, the degree of Doctor of Commerce, honoris causa, will be conferred on Mr. J. Joseph Adorjan.
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon Mr. J. Joseph Adorjan the degree of Doctor of Commerce and declare that his name will be inscribed forever on the university's roll of honorary graduates.
All right, to recognize the Honorable Henry Autry, I ask University Trustee Judge Jimmy Edwards to come forward.
In nearly 4 decades on the bench, the Honorable Henry Autry has endeavored to protect the rights of all and ensure justice for all, especially the powerless and disadvantaged. He was part of the first graduating class of De Smet Jesuit High School in St. Louis and went on to St. Louis University to earn undergraduate and law degrees. His professional life began as a prosecutor in the office of the Circuit Attorney for the City of St. Louis. He established the Circuit Attorney's first child abuse unit and was instrumental in coordinating the agencies responsible for the safety and welfare of children. In 1986, Mr. Autry became an Associate Circuit Judge for St. Louis 22nd Judicial Circuit. In 1997, he was appointed a circuit judge. He also taught as an adjunct professor at St. Louis University School of Law from 1991 to 1997. In 2002, President George W. Bush nominated him to be a United States District Judge for the Eastern District of Missouri, a position he continues to hold. He chairs several committees and presides over the Project Gang Reentry Initiative program. Judge Autry has served on numerous boards of directors, including for Senior Home Security, the St. Louis Area Food Bank, and Aid to Victims of Crime. For his steadfast, lifelong commitment to the pursuit and protection of justice, the degree of Doctors of Laws, honoris causa, will be conferred upon the Honorable Henry Autry.
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon the Honorable Henry Autry the degree of Doctor of Laws and declare that his name will be inscribed forever on the university's roll of honorary graduates.
Now, to recognize Mr. James Gunn, I ask University Trustee Andrew Hogue to come forward.
Born and raised in St. Louis, SLU alumnus James Gunn got his start in the film industry while pursuing graduate studies at Columbia University, working at Troma Entertainment, where he wrote the screenplay for Romeo and Juliet. Mr. Gunn left Troma to write and star in the 2000 feature film, The Specials. The same year, Bloomsbury Press released his novel, Choice Awards. Most recently, Mr. Gunn wrote and directed Superman. Which received rave reviews, praising its celebration of humanity and kindness. He is developing the film's sequel, Man of Tomorrow. In 2023, he was named PETA's Person of the Year for spotlighting animal testing and for encouraging pet adoption. He also filmed a public service announcement in support of the Best Friends Animal Society. For his outstanding filmmaking career, his passion for storytelling, and the entertainment he has brought to audiences around the world, the degree of Doctor of Fine Arts, honoris causa, will be conferred upon Mr. James Gunn.
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon Mr. James Gunn the degree of Doctor of Fine Arts and declare that his name will be inscribed forever on the university's roll of honorary graduates.
And finally, to recognize Sister Mary Haddad, I ask University Trustee Trudy Bush Valentine to come forward.
During nearly 4 decades of professional life, St. Louis University alumna Sister Mary Haddad of the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas has worked in healthcare, social service, and education. Today, she is President and Chief Executive Officer of the Catholic Health Association of the United States. Since 2019, Sister Haddad has led the association's mission to support and advance health ministry of the Catholic Church in the United States with its network of hospitals, long-term care facilities, and community health centers, the largest group of nonprofit health providers in the nation. She directs the association's national advocacy initiatives to protect life, promote the well-being of communities, address social determinants and disparities, develop new models of health delivery, protect Medicaid and Medicare and other vital safety net programs, and create a just health system that works for everyone. Sister Haddad has served on numerous governing boards and committees, including the Committee on Domestic Justice and Human Development of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, the Coalition to Strengthen America's Healthcare, and the Advisory Board for the Center of Theology and Ethics in Catholic Health. She was part of the regional leadership of the Sisters of Mercy. For her passionate leadership and the utmost attention to human dignity in pursuit of high-quality, affordable health care for all, the degree of Doctor of Public Service, honoris causa, will be conferred upon Sister Mary Haddad.
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon Sister Mary Haddad of the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas the degree of Doctor of Public Service and declare that her name will be inscribed forever on the university's roll of honorary graduates.
Congratulations to all of our honorees. We now come to the highlight of the program, the multiple conferring of degrees. There is a two-part procedure in the conferral ceremony. First, the candidates for degrees will be presented by the respective deans of the colleges and schools of the university. Then, the president will confer the degrees. I would ask you to hold your applause until the president has finished speaking. We will begin with the College of Arts and Sciences. The candidates from the other schools will be presented in the order of their schools or college's founding date as listed in the printed program. Dean Lavoie.
Would the candidates for degrees from the College of Arts and Sciences please rise as you are able? President Fazer, on behalf of the faculty of the College of Arts and Sciences, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degrees for which they have been recommended.
Dean Lavoie, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon those whose names were presented the degrees for which they were nominated, and I further declare them sons and daughters of St. Louis University forever. Graduates, you may be seated.
Would the candidates for degrees from the School of Medicine please rise as you are able? President Fazer, on behalf of the School of Medicine, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degrees for which they have been recommended.
Dean Jacobs, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon those whose names were presented the degrees for which they were nominated, and I further declare them sons and daughters of St. Louis University forever. Graduates, please be seated.
Would the candidates for degrees from the School of Law please rise as you are able? President Fazer, on behalf of the faculty of the School of Law, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degrees for which they have been recommended.
Dean Johnson, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon those whose names were presented the degrees for which they were nominated, and I further declare them sons and daughters of St. Louis University forever. Graduates, please be seated.
Would the candidates for degrees from the College of Philosophy and Letters please rise as you are able? President Fazer, on behalf of the faculty of the College of Philosophy and Letters, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degrees for which they have been recommended.
Dean Rosenberg, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon those whose names were presented the degrees for which they were nominated, and I further declare them sons and daughters of St. Louis University forever. Graduates, please be seated.
Would the candidates for the degrees from the Richard A. Chaifetz School of Business please rise as you are able? President Fazer, on behalf of the faculty of the Richard A. Chaifetz School of Business, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degrees for which they have been recommended.
Dean Nickerson, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon those whose names were presented the degrees for which they were nominated, and I further declare them sons and daughters of St. Louis University forever. Graduates, please be seated.
Will the candidates for degrees from the School of Science and Engineering please rise as you are able? President Fazer, on behalf of the faculty of the School of Science and Engineering, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degrees for which they have been recommended.
Dean Triplett, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon those whose names were presented the degrees for which they were nominated, and I further declare them sons and daughters of St. Louis University forever. Graduates, please be seated.
Would the candidates for degrees from the Trudy Bush Valentine School of Nursing please rise as you are able? President Fazer, on behalf of the faculty from the Trudy Bush Valentine School of Nursing, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degrees for which they have been recommended.
Dean LaCour, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon those whose names were presented the degrees for which they were nominated, and I further declare them sons and daughters of St. Louis University forever.
Would the candidates for degrees from the School of Social Work please rise as you are able? President Fazer, on behalf of the faculty of the School of Social Work, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degrees for which they have been recommended.
Dean Fern, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon those whose names were presented the degrees for which they were nominated, and I further declare them sons and daughters of St. Louis University forever. Candidates or graduates, please be seated.
Would the candidates for degrees from the Edward and Margaret Doisy College of Health Sciences please rise as you are able? President Fazer, on behalf of the faculty of the Edward and Margaret Doisy College of Health Sciences, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degrees for which they have been recommended.
Dean Austin, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon those whose names were presented the degrees for which they were nominated, and I further declare them sons and daughters of St. Louis University forever. Graduates, please be seated.
Would the candidates for degrees from the College for Public Health and Social Justice please rise as you are able? President Fazer, on behalf of the faculty of the College for Public Health and Social Justice, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degrees for which they have been recommended.
Dean McClure, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon those whose names were presented the degrees for which they were nominated, and I further declare them sons and daughters of St. Louis University forever. Graduates, please be seated.
Would the candidates for degrees from the School for Professional Studies please rise as you are able? President Fazer, on behalf of the faculty of the School for Professional Studies, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degrees for which they have been recommended.
Dean Duhlman, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon those whose names were presented the degrees for which they were nominated, and I further declare them sons and daughters of St. Louis University forever.
Would the candidates for degrees from the School of Education please rise as you are able? President Fazer, on behalf of the faculty of the School of Education, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degrees for which they have been recommended.
Dean Ritter, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of St. Louis University, I hereby confer upon those whose names were presented the degrees for which they were nominated, and I further declare them sons and daughters of St. Louis University forever. Graduates, please be seated.
Let's give one more round of applause to all of our graduates. I now invite Dr. Sue Szajewski, St. Louis University's Director of Campus Ministry, to confer a blessing upon us.
Gratitude, right? Gratitude. We are grateful for all of our gifts that we have received in our time at St. Louis University. The bookend to this gratefulness is the Magus. You've probably heard that term. The Magus represents the central idea of St. Ignatius, seeking and finding God in all things. Whether you're going off to graduate school working as a nurse, a lawyer, a teacher, even a campus minister. How can you choose the more universal good? Jesuit Father Karl Rahner emphasized the magis, the more, along with indifference. You have to choose that which is more conducive to the end for which you were created, the praise, reverence, and service of God. Indifference is your interior freedom, required to be able to choose that magis in the first place. And so as we end our commencement ceremony today, I really encourage you to think and pray and discern about choosing what makes the widest impact in whatever you do beyond the walls of St. Louis University. So let us pray. Loving God, bless all those gathered here today. Thank you for the blessings of our individual and collective God-given gifts. Place in our hearts the desire to make a difference to our families, our community, our country, and to the many cultures and peoples worldwide. Give us balance in times of distraction and uncertainty. Give us the courage to speak our truth, to stand up for injustice, and to be kind to everyone we encounter, whether we agree or disagree with them. Help us move toward our goals with determination and always with an abundant sense of humor. We pray you bless this event, all who organized it, all of our faculty, staff, and alumni and trustees, and especially bless all of our graduates and their families and friends. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Dr. Shizuki. We're nearing the end of our commencement exercises, but before we do, we want to remind the graduates to please remain seated until after the stage, party, and faculty have left the arena. Please wait and follow your marshal's directions. We ask that graduates and their families and friends, I'm supposed to skip this one, this is why I was looking at my text. It's raining outside. We were gonna guide you to where that you can take pictures with President Fazer. I'm clearly not good at last minute text reading. To the class of 2026, you've already begun your lifelong connection as an alumna or an alumnus of St. Louis University. This is your home, and the fellow graduates surrounding you today will be your friends and part of your professional network for life. And this is just the beginning. SLU's alumni community comprises more than 142,000 mission-driven and successful graduates worldwide. Wherever your life's journey takes you, I encourage you to take advantage of all the benefits of being a graduate of St. Louis University. On the back of your program today is a QR code to scan and enter your new contact information so we can share resources, invitations to upcoming events, and opportunities to connect with Billikens near you wherever you find yourself. We hope to see you back on campus soon. And now, one final word from Dr. Fazer.
As we close our ceremonies, it is my great pleasure to say congratulations, graduates. Now, when I point to you, I want each of you to yell the word forever. This is a tradition. This is my first May commencement. Don't let me down, graduates. All right, we're gonna do this. Are you ready? Okay. You are now members of the Billiken family.
Amen.